Hi there, Ron Schara here for Star Bank. If you're putting your money into mega banks down the street, who knows where that money's being used? Bank locally. Keep your money local with a community bank that actually cares about you, your family, your business, and your goals. Check out the bank we use at MNBound. Try Minnesota's own Star Bank. You can find them online at starbank.net. When you call Star Bank, you actually hear a real living person answering the phone. Star Bank has 10 convenient locations around Minnesota to serve you and all the mobile banking products that you need to manage your money. Check out all that Star Bank has to offer at starbank.net.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Minnesota Bound podcast, the stories behind the stories. I'm Laura Schara, your host for today, and I am excited to be joined by Belinda Jensen, the chief meteorologist for KARE 11 on NBC. Many of you listeners are very familiar with Belinda. Belinda, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, well, thank you, Laura. I'm happy to be here with you.
Well, I'm so excited to chat with you today, and we have been promoting in many different ways on social media and other podcasts that we have our 1000th episode coming up of Minnesota Bound, and big milestone for us. And you have been a part of the Minnesota Bound history as you were on the show for many years.
I was. You know what? I was really blessed to be a part of the show. I think back to all of the experiences I had being able to get into the outdoors and go places I probably wouldn't have been able to go if it wasn't for your dad asking me that one day right after I arrived at KARE 11 if I would like to be the token female on the show.
I love it. And, let's start with, how did you get started in the outdoors? Like, who introduced you to the outdoors?
You know what? I have three brothers and a very active family. And we grew up on the St. Croix River in a house that had 72 stairs to the river and 72 stairs to the garage and only one neighbor. And so we were pretty much always outside. And I think growing up in the St. Croix River Valley, I moved there when I was 6 and I moved out when I was 18. So my whole, all my formidable years were spent in that gorgeous river valley. And we really did spend a ton of time outside. My dad and my brothers used to hunt. I didn't do that. But we would fish and we would spend so much time on that river. So I was really always, it wasn't like I was enthralled by nature, but I was just surrounded by nature. So it was just, just something I really enjoyed and understand the importance of.
Awesome. And, when my dad approached you, what year was it that you started on Minnesota Bound?
It was February of 94. I got to KARE. I arrived at KARE 11 in September of 93. And I think January actually of 94, he needed me to just voice a story. And my first story was actually about ice. This couple for Valentine's Day was ice climbing on the North Shore. And so I didn't go to the North Shore, I just voiced the piece. But then I started to do some regular things. And I, for about 10 years, I worked Thursday through Sunday at KARE, but Minnesota Bound obviously has always been a partner with KARE. So I was able, because I didn't have kiddos and everything, I was able to travel or go places basically Monday through Thursday and do Minnesota Bound stories. And then I would be back and work Friday, Saturday, Sunday at KARE. And it worked out great.
Incredible. My goodness. You must have been working around the clock at that point.
Yeah. We did travel quite a bit, but a lot of stories were local. I went fishing in tons of rivers and lakes, and I learned how to fly fish on the North Shore. A lot of adventures, like we went cross-country skiing down a frozen river on the North Shore, snowmobiling in a lot of places. We canoed the Brule River, which I did when I was a kid, and I was able to bring my dad and my uncle and aunt on that trip. I did most of which was so fun, being able to bring my family along. My husband came to some. We did we would go like up to the Apostle Islands and we would do 3 stories. So we canoed through all of those gorgeous caves in Cornucopia. We went sailing. which my mother got completely sick and she had to get off the boat because it was so windy.
Oh my gosh, I feel for her. I do. I get seasick too. So your poor mom.
I know. What was I thinking there? And then we also went on a lighthouse tour, and we learned so much about all of the crazy history of that area where, all during Prohibition, they would have all these parties on these big boats, and then the party would get out of control, and the boat would burn, and there was the hull of the boat at the bottom of the lake, and because the lake's so clear, we were boating by and they're like, okay, well, that's the hull of whatever. And this is the hull of whatever. I'm like, my gosh, they really got out of control with these parties. It was kind of fun. I learned a lot. And then what was really nice is Ron was like, okay, well, just whatever you need to do, just make sure there's a Minnesota tie to your story and then make sure that, you get it submitted at a certain time. So I just started calling around, and I had a chance to travel to Colorado numerous times, Utah, British Columbia, Hawaii. It was great. It was really a wonderful adventure.
I know. And you were sharing that when we were filming the special and all the amazing destinations you've traveled to and the things that you've experienced on your, 10 years on Minnesota Bound. And I was thinking, I'm like, wow, times have changed. When I was started with Minnesota Bound, to do a trip, they're like, nope, that's too expensive. You better just stay local.
Yeah. Well,
And
you know what? Back then, yeah.
so amazing that that you're able to experience all that. And I totally get it. Back then was like different, right?
It was different. I mean, Minnesota Bound didn't pay.
Yeah.
I remember Hoy Guards in the day, they paid for a lot of the airfare.
That's amazing.
And then, because they wanted to be a part of the show. And then the resorts would let us stay for free. And then we would just come up with the stories. And so it was fun. I mean, the state of Hawaii called and they're like, well, could you come off season and do at least 3 stories and travel to at least 2 islands? And if you do that, we'll pay for your airfare and your hotel. Yeah. So then we just figured that out and we had a great time. And then we did some amazing stories in Hawaii. I think I mentioned one of the best stories I've ever done at Care 11. And then the nice thing is if the story was, well, I shouldn't say if the story was great. A lot of the stories were great, but if the story was really extraordinary, they would air it as an extra on Care 11 as well as on Minnesota Bound. So the story where the sea turtle, the green sea turtle from the Minnesota Zoo, was sent back to Hawaii and then was released into the ocean. And I had a chance to be there and be a part of that experience, which was fantastic. One of my best stories I've ever done at Care 11. And that was a great story. Yeah.
And that was one of your favorite stories you've done on Minnesota Bound.
Oh, the most favorite. I mean, I'm a big diver and I love sea turtles beyond even before I started diving. And so to be a part of a really beautiful experience with the Polynesians and with the native Hawaiians, and then also with this phenomenal turtle scientist named George Ballas, who's world renowned. He was a part of the whole thing and he was right there. And then they tracked our turtle and it was really, really cool. And what had happened is that the place where the turtle lived when it was little in Oahu went into bankruptcy. And so it sent its turtles, a number of them, to these mainland zoos. And so it came here about as big as a dinner plate and it lived in Apple Valley and ate a lot of broccoli. And when it was sent back, it was 187 pounds, huge turtle. Yeah. And then they said, once they got back on their feet, they said, we want the turtles back. And then once they were healthy, we were there and they did a whole Hawaiian ceremony and then sent the turtle off into the ocean. Cool. First time ever free, just a really cool experience. So yeah, if it wasn't for me saying yes, I was just, it was just a great thing for me to do when I had a lot more freedom before kiddos and such.
It's so fabulous. And you were sharing part of the story with the turtles that there were a couple turtles that were being released and one of which actually turned back around and came back to the beach because they were so used to being enclosed in glass.
Yes, it was pretty remarkable. Right before our turtle left, the Milwaukee turtle left and the Milwaukee turtle just went. And in fact, they were tracking it and it went all the way to the Johnson Atoll. So it swam over 200 miles in a few days. Our turtle went in and, we have Joe Harowitz, our photographer, he's on the beach. My husband has the underwater camera. He's in the water. I'm next to Joe, and our turtle went in and came out and went in and came out and like was literally looking for the glass wall. And then like I think the third or fourth time it submerged and never came back. And then we tracked our turtle for a long time. And our turtle didn't go too far. She or he, they don't know if it's a boy or girl until it's 8. So we don't know if it was boy or girl. But
Wow.
our turtle went, yeah, kind of cool. Went to Pearl Harbor, which is basically just around the island, just a little ways. And then it came back and went right, just right around, not too far from the main beach there in Honolulu, and Diamond Head, and went around the corner of Diamond Head where there is a really nice snorkeling bay that a lot of people snorkel in, and it never left that bay. It just
Isn't that
stayed in that bay.
fascinating?
Yeah,
Maybe it
it
just
was kind of
enjoyed
a
seeing
lazy
people.
one. Yeah, and it liked the
It's a
people,
people
I
turtle.
guess. Well, probably, yeah, maybe it was attached to the people from Minnesota, so it liked to be close to the people. I'm not sure.
I
So,
in my years of doing Minnesota Bound stories, I had an opportunity to dive with the fish at the Mall of America in one of their tanks, and they have of course fish that are native to Minnesota and part of their aquarium. And so I swam with sturgeon, and I fed sturgeon by hand, and of course you have to reach into this bucket and pull out a handful of earthworms and let your full hand go into the sturgeon's mouth because they don't have teeth because they're like bottom feeders. So it's like a little sucker, but very large. And just trust that you're going to get your hand back, which I did. And then we had moved to another tank, which was a saltwater tank, and they had a sea turtle in there of some sort. And I said, as I'm getting in there, they said, well, just be careful of the turtle. It's really territorial. And I was like, what do you mean? It's not a friendly turtle. And sure enough, this turtle was giving me a side eye, would come kind of like grazing by my shoulder. And out of all the creatures in there, in the saltwater that probably could have harmed me, it was the turtle they told me to worry about. So I thought that was pretty funny, but they're
crazy.
fascinating creatures.
Yep.
But all the adventures that we get to have on through, outdoor adventures of storytelling. I have a couple more questions for you, of course, but before we get there, a word from Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed.
Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Beef. Grass-fed beef right here in Minnesota. We make a career talking about clean water, native habitat, and some of the best environmental practices. That's exactly why I'm so excited about Thousand Hills. It is locally raised beef done differently. You see, Thousand Hills uses what is called regenerative agriculture to raise their cattle. Those beef cows, they graze in fields of wild grasses, and they move between a lot of different fields of grass. It is a sustainable ecosystem free of synthetic fertilizers and chemical herbicides. It's a system of agriculture that promotes clean water, natural grasses, and the best beef you've tasted. It's beef raised the right way. You can check out Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed grass-fed beef to understand their regenerative agricultural practices and fall in love with Thousand Hills beef. Another of our great sponsors, North Dakota Tourism. And you need to start planning your fall bird hunt in North Dakota at legendarynd.com. North Dakota right now is home to more than 800,000 plots hunting acres. Plots, that is private land that is open to public hunting. The plots guides, they show you exactly where all that land hides. Right now, North Dakota's ringneck crowing counts, they're up like 15% this year. The state is also home to an estimated 2.9 million breeding ducks. It is an absolute outdoor oasis. Bag your limit this fall in North Dakota. Visit legendarynd.com.
All right. We are chatting here with Belinda Jensen, Chief Meteorologist of KARE 11. And Belinda is celebrating Minnesota Bound's milestone of hitting 1,000 episodes. And that's because Belinda spent 10 years as somewhat of a roaming reporter on Minnesota Bound, traveling all throughout Minnesota and, of course, throughout many places within our country, experiencing outdoor adventures. And bringing it back to Minnesota, Belinda, do you have a favorite part of our state where you like to spend time?
Well, that's a good question.
So many good spots.
Yeah, there are so many good spots. You're totally right. Well, you know what? Actually, when it's all said and done, I think that the area that I've only spent a little bit of time in, but I'd love to spend more time in, is that the rolling hills of southeastern Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Lanesboro, that whole area. I went down and we did go fishing down there in a couple of the rivers, and also a lake near Rochester that was purposely flooded. And it had all these beautiful, like, they were dead trees, but they were because of the fact that they created the lake. But it was really, really cool and beautiful. But the rolling hills down there are gorgeous, and the trails. So yeah, I'd like to spend more time down there. I've had a chance to do a few things down in that neck of the woods, but I mean, everybody gravitates to the North Shore because there's nothing like the North Shore. I mean, that's for sure. I know it's across the border, but I absolutely love the Bayfield area, and
Mm-hmm.
I really love it. I had a chance, like I said, to bring my mom and dad up there for Minnesota Bound. And then when I was a little kid, we used to go camping at Big Bay State Park, which is on Madeline Island. And so I have really great fond memories as a kid. And then I went back a couple of years ago and rented a really cool VRBO log home with my
Oh,
parents and
cool.
my daughter. And yeah, and just experienced it all again through my daughter's eyes. And it was just, and my parents, loved it. And it's so pretty up there. It's so, it feels kind of like Cape Cod up there, and we were really lucky. We picked a weekend in July and it was stunning and warm and beautiful. So,
Uh,
right. It's,
that's
yeah, it's just great.
That's fantastic. There, if you are traveling down to southeastern Minnesota to do some fun activities with your family, there is a company called Broken Paddle Guiding Company. And you spoke
Okay.
of the flooded lake that you had toured before, but there is a delta system off the Mississippi River, and it literally feels like you're going somewhat into like the Everglades, but the northern version of it. And they take
Okay.
tours on kayaks through a flooded forest floor. So the whole tour is about 3 hours long, and you're traveling in the tiniest of channels of a flooded forest. And all of these trees, I feel like they're silver maple trees. They have adapted over hundreds of years to be able to live underwater. So they're still alive.
Oh,
A
wow. That is a really
really
cool adventure.
super unique area of Minnesota. And I don't think many people really know about the Delta down there, maybe unless you live in that area. But this Broken Paddle Guiding Company was started by three young male entrepreneurs that wanted to kind of leave corporate America and start this company. And they're passionate about the environment down there and, of course, keeping the ecosystem healthy. And but it's a really, really fun tour. So if you are looking to explore that area, I would highly recommend the flooded forest floor tour with that company because it's super, super fun.
That's super cool. And yeah, that'd be a wonderful thing. My dad would really enjoy that. He's been in every inch of the state, but I don't know that he's done that. So that would be a really cool thing. I love to bring him on adventures, and he loves getting out. And um, that's great. I love it. Yeah, and I really did learn how to fish because of your dad. I mean, and because of Minnesota Bound. It's something, and I really had a great time. I would fly fishing in many, many places. Some beautiful rivers all across the state. So that was a really fun part of Minnesota as well as checking that out.
Oh, for sure. Have you continued to fly fish since Minnesota Bound? Fly fishing is one of those skills. People say it's kind of like riding a bike, but I don't personally feel it is like that because I've tried it and then I take a break and I go back out there and I'm like, oh, my casting's horrible.
Oh,
But
no, I haven't had a chance. I should. I really should. No,
yes,
I,
you
I
totally
really
should
haven't done that. Yeah, I should
get back out
take
there and
time.
try
That's
it
why I'm
again.
really yeah, that's why I'm really glad I did what I did because like I said, like I might have not done that otherwise. And I feel like, it was a big part of my life and I got the opportunity. I mean, it was a job and I had to go do it, but it ended up being just this wonderful opportunity where I got to see places and meet people and live through, these outdoor experiences that are just wonderful.
Absolutely. I have a question for you in regards to, doing some interviews and things on the milestone that Minnesota Bound has hit. And there's not many television shows, even nationally, that have been on air for 26, years. And a lot of people have been asking me what I think has made Minnesota Bound so successful? And I want to ask you that question, since you were a big part of Minnesota Bound for so many years. And why do you think Minnesota Bound has been so successful and lasted all these years?
You know, it's really the stories of these phenomenal people. Your dad's a really phenomenal storyteller. And so I think it started with him and people loving his stories and the way he read the stories and the people he met and the people that he introduced everyone to. And then, of course, the beautiful scenery that wraps around the stories is so soothing and wonderful way to wrap up your Sunday evening, and a wonderful way before the Monday morning chaos to kind of wrap up your weekend. So I think that was really the main reason that people, got hooked on it. And then as of late, I would argue that, the one thing during the pandemic is, with a lot of things closed and normal things, sporting, kids that are so usually over scheduled into sports, everything canceled. So people had to find things to do. So people were just outside. They just went outside. And I think, yeah. And then the nice thing is Mother Nature, it's almost like, I believe in God and I believe that Mother Nature, all of it comes together. And we really had just unbelievable, beautiful weather, even like the March that it all started happening last March. We did. It was beautiful. And the summers have been beautiful. I mean, of course, this summer was a drought, but I mean, that was great for, outdoor activities, not wonderful for the farmers. But yes, I mean, like, we had a lot of beautiful weather in this part of the country that's not always like that. We had gorgeous seasons and people were just outside and enjoying every minute of it. And I think so, as of late, nature is just a remedy for so many things, for stress relief. And I've done a bunch of stories about how they call it vitamin N for kids. Nature is just a huge part of what you need to introduce to your kids. They have to be outside, and it has to be unconstructed play. It has to be go in the woods and figure something out. Go in the woods and make a fort. And that's what I did as a kid. And then they've come to understand that that's how kids learn executive functioning. And I mean, a million things: the oxygen, the exercise, the creativity, the curiosity of, oh my gosh, how did that tree fall down? Or what is that's living in that, in that tree, and, things like that. So that's a huge part of, so I think that, people want to watch a show like that, even if they didn't get a chance to get outdoors that particular weekend.
They have a connection to being outside. I'm a huge advocate of nature and outdoors and the benefits of health and wellness, and that connection to that, and how important it is that we, get outside in any capacity possible. It doesn't have to be something where you are, a champion kayaker and this is what you do. It can be a simple walk to hear the crunching leaves underneath your feet, and how beneficial that is to everybody, and how many lessons can be learned that you can use in everyday life just by sitting with nature, because it actually, moves so in harmony, and everything has a purpose out in nature. And when you continue to carry that curiosity throughout life, I think it is incredibly beneficial. So you're right. I've always said too that it's the people and their passion for the outdoors that truly makes the show special. And we just happen to have the wonderful opportunity to share their story. So, and you obviously had a chance to do that for many, many years as well. So we appreciate you being such an integral part of the show and your contributions that you have made. And I have one last question for you before we wrap up our podcast here. But first, a word from Minnesota Propane.
Did you know that a propane gas furnace lifespan averages 20 years, while electric heat pumps only last 14 years? And propane furnaces work in all temperatures while delivering warm and consistent heat to your home. Why buy two heating systems when one propane furnace can do it all? It lasts longer, works better, and it costs less. These things and more are done with propane today. The right energy right now.
Hey, I'm really picky when it comes to my drinking water, and I have the reverse osmosis drinking water system from Connecticut, and I love it. It takes out contaminants in the water, it removes chlorine, and most important, it tastes great, which is the one thing I'm probably most picky on is how does my water taste? So having Kinetico also means that I use less plastic water bottles, which we all know is a definite bonus for our environment. For more information, visit kinetico.com to find a dealer near you. All right, Belinda, I have one last question for you. And being that you are a meteorologist and into weather, and you understand when you're outdoors and working in the outdoor industry, is specifically filming the outdoors, weather doesn't always go your way, right?
That's true.
You can't just dial in the sun or some perfectly good clouds when you need the haze for good camera work. But did you have any shoots where things necessarily didn't go your way or were more challenging because of the weather? Some of those sometimes just stick in your mind.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Well, okay, so it wasn't here in Minnesota, but we went up to British Columbia 10 years before the Olympics were there in Whistler. And we were going to do 3 stories, and one of them was going to be snowmobiling. And it was snowing to beat the band. And it was raining. Yeah, it was raining down in Whistler and snowing aloft. But we had, it's kind of like one of those things where, we had it all set up. And so we went up in basically almost, a blizzard. And the amazing thing that happened is we get up there and we can barely see, but it's safe to go. And we're all, of course, helmeted up and ready to roll. And then just like that, British Columbia has phenomenal weather and it changes at a moment's notice. A clearing came through and we saw this stunning valley of conifers in front of us. And we went snowmobiling at a pretty high elevation. It was just beautiful, but we almost died getting up there.
Oh my goodness.
And then, And then I remember it wasn't the weather per se, but it was the insects. We were on the Brule River doing that beautiful piece on the River of Presidents. But I don't know if it was a hatching or whatever, but there were a jillion of those black flies.
Oh no, they'll eat you alive.
Oh gosh, yeah, they will. So we couldn't do any shooting on the little beaches because we were just getting attacked. So we had to eat standing in the water, interview everything standing in the water. If we were in the water, we weren't attacked as much. I don't know. It was really brutal. Oh my goodness. It worked. I mean, we got it done. So if we were moving and canoeing, we were fine. But if we stopped to do anything, it was just horrible. Yeah, right.
And that's, a lot of things that people don't probably realize or see once everything's edited so beautifully and music is put to it and our voices are, talking about how wonderful the trip was. There are times where the weather is not cooperative, or if they're filming, if we're filming during the winter, it could be -20 out and we're all, freezing and then jumping inside quick and hopping back out. And cameras can't get wet. So if it starts raining, you have to take a break or whatever. But that's part of the challenges and also part of the fun in a way, because sometimes those stories are the ones that you end up sharing the most just for the sake of you made it through it.
That's for sure. Absolutely. Yep. So it's been great. And I'm really happy I had a chance to do it. And I'm excited for the show this weekend. I'm excited to see it and to see all the clips that I haven't seen in so long. So I'm really looking forward to Saturday night.
Oh my goodness. I am too. I'm excited to see some of your old clips. Of course, I, remember you being part of the show from, the first day you started, just because obviously both my parents and you were part of the family back then. So, and we still consider you part of the Minnesota Bound family today. But I'm excited to see the show, and it is airing. As Belinda had mentioned, we have a special coming up on KARE 11. It's actually a 1-hour primetime special, and it's airing on November 13th, which is, of course, let's see here, Saturday. Yeah, Saturday night. And not only do we have a half-hour Minnesota Bound special, but we have a following half hour with Belinda in the KARE 11 studio, where we had a chance to chat about stories and other memories that many people probably haven't heard about. So we're excited.
Yep, with Ron and Bill. Yeah, it was super fun to shoot it and looking forward to it on Saturday evening.
I am too. Well, thank you so much, Belinda, for joining us on the podcast today. We really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us about your favorite Minnesota Bound memories.
Well, thank you, Laura. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Also, thank you to Kinetico, Minnesota Propane, North Dakota Tourism, and Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed. And last but not least, don't forget to introduce a kid to the great outdoors.